If you're planning a visit to the Tokyo Disneyland Resort, you might be wondering, where do I start? Like, how do I even begin? Well, don't worry, that's exactly what I'm gonna cover in this video. Whether you're planning on just going for the day or you wanna make a vacation out of it, we're gonna cover what to expect at the theme parks, how to get there, where you might wanna stay, and even how much money you might need to spend while you're there, and of course, a lot more. Let's get into it, starting off with the theme parks. So the first thing you should know is that there are two different theme parks at the Tokyo Disneyland Resort. One is called Tokyo Disneyland, and the other one is called Tokyo Disney Sea. Now, Tokyo Disneyland is often referred to as a more family-friendly park. Though both parks are very family-friendly, there just seem to be a lot more kid-based attractions in this park. From my experience, Tokyo Disneyland is a lot more similar to Disneyland Park in California, as well as the Magic Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World in Florida. As you can see here, there is a Haunted Mansion attraction. This is very similar looking to the one in Walt Disney World. Even though these rides are similar in theme, it is still a distinctly different experience going on these attractions and visiting this park than it is at Magic Kingdom and Disneyland. However, Tokyo Disneyland does have a set of attractions that are completely unique to this park and absolutely incredible. My favorite, hands down, is the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast. This is one of the newer rides of the resort, and it is absolutely spectacular. Hands down, one of Disney's top 3 rides they've ever created, right up there with Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. This gigantic trackless dark ride doesn't just take you into Beast's castle, but you actually get to relive scenes from the movie in ways you've never seen before. However, Tokyo Disneyland's sister theme park, Tokyo Disney Sea, is a completely different animal. In fact, there's no other Disney theme park that I can even compare to Disney Sea. Maybe Epcot, because there are different ports around the world sort of theming, but in reality, the detail, the immersion, and things that you see at Tokyo Disney Sea are just really unmatched. This is a place you'll want to explore, ride unique attractions, and even discover the newest port, Fantasy Springs, which takes you into unique lands based on Peter Pan's Neverland, Rapunzel's Forest based on Tangled, and Arendelle from Frozen. Disney Sea is expansive, it is beautiful, it is often mind-blowing. You will truly feel like you're on your own unique Disney adventure here. So if you're a big Disney Parks fan and you really only have one day to visit the parks, you might want to push Tokyo Disney Sea ahead of Tokyo Disneyland. Although I really love both parks, it's a really tough call for me. Now that you know some important details about both parks at the Tokyo Disneyland Resort, I'm gonna cover a little bit about what it's like to actually be here, what the layout is, and how you can travel to and around the resort. So over here we have a map of the Tokyo Disneyland Resort. Now a big difference here is both parks actually do touch each other. However, unlike Disneyland in California, where the park gates face each other, so if you're staring at Disneyland, you can just turn around and look at Disney California Adventure and even just easily walk between the two. The interesting thing here is that Tokyo Disneyland's entrance is on one side of the resort and Tokyo Disney Sea's entrance is on the complete opposite. So how do you get between the parks? Well, you have to take the monorail that loops all the way around the resort, and it has 4 different stops. Now, one of the least expensive ways to get to the Tokyo Disneyland Resort, because it is actually just outside of Tokyo, is to take the train in. You can get in for about 250 yen one way. You get off at the Maihama station. Actually, I'm gonna post the details right here. This station is right actually near the entrance to Tokyo Disneyland Park. So if you actually are going to Disney Sea that day, then you're gonna need to board the monorail, which is right outside the gate of Tokyo Disneyland. And as you notice here, everything goes counterclockwise in this monorail loop. So you would start off over here and then you would get your ticket, which is about 300 yen for each way. And if you have kids with you, it's about 150 yen for them. And right now with the conversion rate, that's like $2 per person for adults and about $1 for kids. But anyway, you're just gonna get on, and because it's only 4 stops, you'll just get off at the Tokyo Disney Sea station, as you can see here. The monorail here is super simple, and I think it's even a lot easier to manage than the one at Walt Disney World. So third up, what else do you need to know before you go? You should buy your tickets in advance on Tokyo Disneyland's site. I'm gonna post the English link in the description, but before you go there, let me explain a little bit about the tickets. They are significantly less expensive than the ones in the United States. However, right now, you can only purchase 1 park per day. You cannot purchase a park hopper ticket like you can in the US and visit both on one day with 1 ticket. Seems like ticket prices usually range between like 7,000 yen and 9,000 yen, give or take a few hundred yen. And that is per park. In US dollars, that's ranging about $40 to $60 per ticket. Also, kids ages 4 to 11 and teenagers have a lower ticket price. Kids 3 and under are totally free. Also, right now, Tokyo Disneyland does not offer annual passes. Now, if you want to do it all at the Tokyo Disneyland Resort, my recommendation is 3 days. And if you're thinking about staying at one of the Tokyo Disneyland Resort hotels, I'm gonna tell you this: you will not be disappointed. So first, I'm gonna give you some insight to staying on property, and then I'm gonna follow up with some tips you should know before your visit to one of the parks. So the Tokyo Disneyland Resort has several themed hotels around the property. I recently stayed at this one, the Tokyo Disneyland Hotel, which is right across the entrance from Tokyo Disneyland Park. This hotel is exquisite. It feels upscale. The rooms have beautiful Disney theming. Really one of the best Disney hotels I've ever stayed in. However, the ones at Tokyo Disney Sea are even more upscale. The Miracosta Hotel is actually attached to the park in the front entrance, and you can get some really spectacular views as well as these like gorgeously detailed rooms. And at the back of Tokyo Disney Sea is the newest hotel, the Fantasy Springs Hotel. And that one is connected right up to the new land and just looks so beautiful. There are also a couple slightly less expensive hotels, the Disney Ambassador and the Toy Story Hotel. And those ones are also on the monorail line, so it's really easy to get on and head to one of the parks that day. So other than being sometimes walking distance to the parks on the monorail line and having some really beautiful Disney theming in your room, other hotel benefits include early entry, which gets you in about 15 minutes before the park opens. And now that might not seem like a lot, but it can get you a really big head start on some of the bigger attractions. It's possible, like right now, Disney Sea has paused Happy Entry, which is the early entry. So this may only work for Tokyo Disneyland, but still for attractions like Beauty and the Beast, you're going to be one of the first in line and maybe not have to worry about paying to skip the line or waiting in a 2-hour line, because that does happen. In addition, Fantasy Springs has limited entry for the time being. In order to experience this new land at Tokyo Disney Sea, you actually need to obtain a standby pass or purchase Disney Premier Access so that you can skip the line for one of the rides. And often early in the day, these can sell out really quickly, which means that some guests either may not get into Fantasy Springs during their visit, or they do, but they're not able to ride all of the attractions. So one of the best hassle-free ways for you to get entrance into Fantasy Springs at Tokyo Disney Sea is to book one of the select packages at certain hotels. It's called Fantasy Springs Magic. You'll see it as part of a hotel package. You do pay a bit more for it, but you can enter the land whenever you want, and you get entry to all the rides anytime you want and express entry to 3 of them. Now, if you want to know more about visiting Fantasy Springs, at the end of this video, I'll link to my other post, which really goes into detail about that. But I also really wanted to tell you some important tips before your visit. The first thing you should absolutely plan for is getting to the park early. I recommend an hour before. This is in front of Tokyo Disney Sea about 45 minutes before opening. You see long lines of everybody trying to get into the park. There's security, and then they take your ticket, and then you're inside the park. If you want the shortest ride wait times, I highly recommend getting there at least an hour early, like I said. And that way, once you're inside the park, you can book things like standby passes, premier passes, or just head straight to your first choice of attraction and get right in. So what is a standby pass and a premier pass? Well, that brings me to my next tip, which is definitely download the free Tokyo Disneyland app. They do have it in English now, and actually if you look behind me, this is right after you get into Tokyo Disney Sea, and the very first thing that a lot of people do is try to obtain either a standby pass for an attraction, or they're purchasing a Disney Premier Access pass, which works like a lightning lane at the US parks and skips the bulk of the line. Now, the standby passes are free and work for attractions like this. And the Disney Premier Access Pass, which depending on the ride, it's like an average of 2,000 yen or like 12 US dollars, works for attractions like these. Now, these can always change, but you can easily score these by opening the app once you're inside the park. You can't book them ahead of time. You actually have to be inside the park to book these. Another thing that I would do before I was inside the park is make sure that all the tickets that you want to use, everybody's tickets in your party, are actually linked to your app just in case. Then you can have one person easily book these for everybody. Another app I would highly recommend is like Google Translate or something similar. Just in case you come across a language barrier, then you can type or say something into it and it will read in Japanese to the person you're trying to talk to. Everyone is super friendly. I never ran into a situation where it's difficult, and a lot of the cast members here also have a little translator for you. Before the last part, kind of breaking it down a little bit more in terms of how much money you might need to bring with you to have an enjoyable day at the park. I have a lot more planning videos coming for Tokyo Disneyland, as well as giving you some really cool tours of both parks. And even if you're just planning and going, hey, what else should I do as part of my visit to Tokyo? I'm gonna give you even more tips or really fun stuff to do during that time. So if you wanna know more about that, hit the subscribe button and you can follow along for more Tokyo Disneyland tips. So just a heads up, how much does stuff cost when you're there? Right now, the dollar is super strong in comparison to the yen, so it's gonna feel like pretty inexpensive, especially when you compare it to the parks in the US. Not only are the theme park tickets a lot cheaper, like I covered before, but most snacks for me were around 400 yen on average, which is like $2.50. And you can even get a quick service meal with like an entree and a drink and maybe something a little extra for around 900 yen, which is just under $6. And it's about 30% less for kids meals too. So some fantastic deals. However, you will pay more for some of the table service dining experiences, and even when we ate in Arendelle and Fantasy Springs, that was around 3,600 yen per person, which breaks down to like $22 per person. So I would review the different menus before you go. That's always a good way to kind of break down your costs and see the places you want to eat. I'll get into more recommendations in future videos for where you should dine and things like that. In addition, if you're staying on property, your hotel room could start as little as $250 per person. However, staying at the Disneyland Hotel over there, that was about $490 per night. And hotel packages also vary. Here's the thing though, it really depends on when you're going. A big tip I have is if you can travel during the week, the weekends can get a lot more expensive and a lot busier. Also book your hotel reservations well in advance if you can. Some of the better rooms tend to go pretty quickly. However, the Disneyland Hotel seems to have a lot more availability, and I highly recommend that hotel. Of course, a big thing coming here is buying some of the really adorable merch that you can find around the resort. I saw that most ears were around 1,700 yen, so like under 12 bucks. And a lot of the really adorable purses that I bought for some friends, those around 3,200 yen or like 20 bucks. And t-shirts like this one that I'm wearing could be anywhere from like 12 to 30 bucks. They do take card and cash there, so you can do either. If you have any questions about visiting Tokyo Disneyland, comment below. I'll do my best to answer. I'm David Vaughn. Thanks for watching. See you next time.